Hey everybody, it's Alan Brochstein coming to you from Houston, Texas, where I run 420 Investor at Seeking Alpha and New Cannabis Ventures. Fun stuff. No, not right now. Uh, each week, I use this video to provide an update on what's going on in the cannabis sector for those that care. And this week, there was no big news. We ended the month, May, and it was another decline after April 2. And we are breaking away from the trend that's been in place for over a year, which is the first 2 months of the quarter are good, and then we collapse in the third month. I think December was a great example, in March as well. And, we started off this year kind of strong in January, and then we held in there in February and collapsed in March. And so there wasn't any big news this week. Each week I write a piece at Seeking Alpha, and I don't think there's any charge at all. You do have to give them your email address and set up an account. But the piece I wrote, I think I have it incorrect here. Yeah, I didn't update this, so I need to go back and remember, which I'm doing. I have traumatic brain injury. So I didn't change the one I wrote 2 weeks ago, which was called Tilray is likely to fall more, which was very well timed. This week, I think I wrote a piece on the Canadian LPs, because I know that a lot of people read my articles and they think I'm a hater, that I hate all stocks. Why? And that's the way it was at the very beginning, 10 years ago, when I started writing at Seeking Alpha about cannabis stocks. But I looked at the 8 Canadian LPs that are in the global cannabis stock index, and I really like 3 of them. I've been very public about this. In alphabetical order: Cronos, Organigram, and Village Farms. And I kind of went through. I discussed the other ones, which I don't like, Canopy Growth and Tilray. And I also discussed as well Hexo, which is being acquired by Tilray, and which you should sell if you own it. And also Aurora and SNDL. So you can read that piece. I'll get the copy changed. I published this video is based on something I publish in the evening on Friday, a weekly summary, and I made a mistake. I didn't update that. I also, and I got a lot of hate over this interview, and I think I understand why, but I really like the interviews and the interviewer, Rena Sherbill, in her interviews. I listen to the other ones that she does, and she and I have been doing these interviews for a while. And she had me in February, and then she had me on Memorial Day weekend. She published it on Memorial Day, and it was called Not Necessarily Time to Buy Cannabis Stocks. Whoa! What's this dude saying? Why? They're so cheap. Why isn't now the time to buy them? So I've been here and done this, and I can understand people's thinking. They're so cheap, you gotta buy them. No, that doesn't work. I'm not saying they're gonna keep going down, by the way, but I'm saying if you are a short-term trader and you see these stocks as being really cheap and are expecting to make money, then you are smoking too much of the product, I think. And if you're a long-term investor, I think it's okay to buy. What's not okay is to expect quick returns. And I spend my time pointing out stocks that I think are way too cheap. Is it likely to change overnight, though? I always tell people no. There are things that I am looking for, as I often will discuss, and they're not happening. More importantly, right now, the trading volumes are terrible. And so if I simplify the situation, we have the same poor people owning stocks wanting people like me to say how great they are so they can sell them. That's not a good situation. If you're one of those people, leave me alone. Adjust your thinking and stop bashing me. But if you're a long-term investor, this is a good time, a good price, I should say, to buy some of these stocks. And I do share those ideas. And people do pay at 420 Investor to hear my updates on them. But, you don't have to do that. And, it's funny, I got criticized by one person. Dude, how are you going to sell subscriptions if you don't think now's the time to buy? I am not one of those people, folks. And I am not going to paint a picture that's good for Alan Brochstein and not good for you. That's just not the way I operate. And I will always speak the truth as I see it. Okay, so this week, as I said, the big news was small. The little news was small too. 4 of the 28 companies I follow had news this week. Canopy Growth cut a deal finally with Indiva. Remember, Indiva was working with Wana Brands to make their products available in Canada and doing okay initially. And I used to follow Indiva closely. And every week when I'm doing my 420 Investor weekend edition of the pre-market video, I go over the chart, even though it's not on my focus list anymore, and I warn people about it. And I've been right. And, you shouldn't brag about warning about a cannabis stock. They're all going down, aren't they? And but the thing is, there's a lot of debt there and not a lot of cash flow. And I always said Canopy Growth could buy the company, or they could just cut off that relationship and pay them, I think it was 6 months of revenue, something like that. And I said neither of those is going to be good for Indiva. And so what happened this week was they cut a deal to take over the manufacturing, I don't know if the manufacturing, distribution, I should say, of the Wana Brands in Canada. Wana Brands who Canopy Growth already paid for, but they don't own yet. And they also bought 20% of Indiva at a price. If you would have told me this was going to be the price 6 months ago, I would have laughed at you. And now I'm laughing at Canopy Growth. It's a low price, but as I told my subscribers this morning, they paid 5 cents for something that may be worth 0. So anyway, that was one news. More importantly, I think, Cronos Group, I've been critical of this since they announced the deal. They bought a brand, Lord Jones, I think, and they were planning to be big in US CBD. And I was like, huh? What? And it was costing them a lot of money, and no, they weren't doing very well. This week, they announced they're exiting the US CBD business. I really like Cronos Group. I don't think it's the best LP, but I think it's a great price. And this move makes me feel better about the company. TrueLeaf, which is a company, unfortunately, I really like it. It's down almost 50% year to date. And they announced that they're exiting California. They're one store, and in Massachusetts as well. And so investors didn't seem to take very well to that, and they sunk it to a new low, a new all-time low. And then finally, big news out of Verano. No, not really. They opened their 68th dispensary in Florida. That's really it. This week, the market was actually up as measured by the Global Cannabis Stock Index. That's a big difference from what we've been going through. It was up 0.4%, not a lot, and it made a new all-time low on a closing basis and intraday basis during the week. And I don't think that's, looking at the chart, I should say, it doesn't look like that was a low, but maybe it will be, I hope. In year to date, the Global Cannabis Stock Index is down 21.1%, and the S&P 500 is up 11.5%. Really bad performance. I run 2 model portfolios. They both launched December 31st, and one of them was patterned off of 2 that I ran at Badzinga for many years, and I regularly did what I was supposed to do. I beat the index against which they are benchmarked, against which they are measured against. And that's now called Beat the Global Cannabis Stock Index, where I'm trying to beat the Global Cannabis Stock Index. And this week, it was down 2.2%. And I just told you, the index was up 0.4%. And so I'm not really happy with where I am year to date. I'm not beating the index. I was earlier in the year, and I can explain why I'm not. I have TLRY, for example. I remain very confident that I will do as I've always done on a quarterly basis, beat the Global Cannabis Stock Index. Year to date, I'm down 21.4%, 0.3% worse than the index. The other one I started also on December 31st, but I really started it. And it's called Beat the American Cannabis Operator Index, which is right now 12 MSOs. It just changed. There were 3 MSOs that went in and 1 former CBD company that went out. And this week, that model portfolio was up 4%. And the index was only up 0.8%. So it was a good week. Columbia Care, thank you very much. Finally. MSOS is the other thing I'm trying to beat besides that index. And it was down 0.2% this week. For the record, I hate MSOS. I've written about it a lot. And yes, it's a low price. If you think it's a deal, you should buy certain stocks that it owns. The top 5, the big 5, it's 77%. And you should just buy one of those. And I know which one. I own one of them, only one of those big 5. It has 83%, I think. No, 85% in the top 6. I wouldn't buy the 6th name either. You can look it up. I think that's, if I were going to recommend shorts, I might recommend shorting that one stock. So year to date, MSOS is down it's down a little bit less than my model portfolio, and the index is crushing me. So I'm not happy with that. I can explain that as well. Okay, so the last thing I do is talk about the calendar, and I'll just say, there's nothing, and I'll wish you a good week. Take care. Bye-bye.